The bitter cold was one of the deadliest enemies soldiers faced during World War II. In the snow-covered forests of the Ardennes, in the Russian steppes, and even in the high mountain passes of Italy, temperatures plummeted far below freezing. Men froze in their foxholes, frostbite-crippled divisions, and hypothermia took lives as surely as bullets. Fires were dangerous luxuries. Smoke and light could give away positions to enemy patrols or aircraft. So, how did soldiers survive without open flames? What methods kept them alive through nights where steel froze to skin and breath turned instantly to frost? The forgotten techniques they used were simple, brutal, and ingenious. These methods mattered as much as any weapon. Uniforms issued during the war were often inadequate for extreme cold, especially early in the conflict. Soldiers quickly learned to layer every piece of cloth they could find. Shirts, sweaters, extra socks, even burlap sacks were stuffed under jackets to trap body heat. In the Eastern Front, Soviet soldiers wrapped themselves with newspapers inside their coats, the trapped air providing insulation like a primitive thermal lining. Germans scavenged sheepskins, rugs, or civilian clothing from abandoned villages. The key wasn't the material, but the layering, creating pockets of warm air between each piece of fabric. Even though the appearance was ragged, this tactic saved countless men from freezing. When fires couldn't be risked, soldiers used indirect heat. One common method was to warm stones or metal containers during the day, either in brief, hidden fires or from vehicle engines, then wrap them in cloth to carry warmth into their foxholes. In the trenches, heated stones were buried under straw or placed near boots to slow frostbite. In some units, soldiers would heat sand or gravel inside empty ammunition tins, sealing them to act as makeshift hot water bottles. Though the warmth never lasted long, even a few hours of heated relief could mean the difference between keeping circulation in toes or losing them to frostbite. It may seem primitive, but it was effective. Soldiers often slept back to back or huddled together in groups to conserve heat, much like animals in winter. This tactic was particularly common in the Soviet Red Army, where men shared trenches or dugouts with little to no heating. British and American units referred to this as the two-man bag, essentially two soldiers wrapping themselves in shared blankets or coats. While uncomfortable, the combined body heat dramatically increased survival in sub-zero conditions. The stigma of closeness vanished quickly when temperatures plunged. When fires were forbidden, the ground itself became shelter. Soldiers dug foxholes and trenches not only for protection from bullets, but also for insulation against the wind. Going below the surface meant escaping wind chill, which could drop temperatures even further. Many troops lined the bottoms of foxholes with straw, pine branches, or torn fabric to reduce contact with frozen earth, which otherwise sapped body heat relentlessly. In Russia, German soldiers often dug small sleeping graves lined with whatever material they could scavenge, covering the top with planks or tarps to trap warmth. It was not comfortable, but it reduced exposure enough to keep men alive. Issued sleeping bags were rare, and when they existed, they were bulky and often inadequate. Soldiers improvised constantly. In the Ardennes, United States infantrymen stuffed their bedrolls with dry grass, leaves, or spare clothing to increase insulation. On the Eastern Front, soldiers used captured blankets from enemy stockpiles, combining them into makeshift sleeping sacks. Some even sewed together old coats or cloaks to create crude but effective sleeping bags. Civilians taught troops to use straw-stuffed mattresses inside barns or dugouts. Every material that could trap air, hay, paper, cloth scraps, was pressed into service. One of the most reliable cold weather solutions came from traditions older than the war itself. Wherever possible, soldiers resorted to animal skins. Soviet partisans relied heavily on sheepskin coats and fur hats, while Finnish troops issued reindeer hides to their men for bedding and cloaks. German forces on the Eastern Front scavenged fur-lined coats from occupied territories. Even Allied troops sometimes received fur gear when preparing for winter campaigns. Skins and fur offered natural insulation, capable of withstanding temperatures far colder than standard uniforms. Men who managed to secure them had a survival advantage over those without. Though not widespread, some armies experimented with chemical heating. German troops used small ration heating tablets made of compressed fuel, and while primarily designed for warming food, soldiers occasionally used them sparingly inside tin cups to generate warmth. In United States forces, ration cans sometimes doubled as crude heating devices when packed with coal dust or candle remnants. Soldiers also improvised by filling containers with heated coals and burying them just beneath their bedding area, being careful to prevent fires or smoke. These primitive heating packs offered temporary relief, though they carried risks of burns or suffocation when misused. Perhaps the most overlooked, but, absolutely vital method of keeping warm was simple movement. Commanders knew that inactivity killed men in freezing conditions. Soldiers were ordered to rotate guard duty more frequently, march short patrols, or even do light exercises in place just to keep blood flowing. While exhausting in already drained conditions, this constant effort to maintain circulation was, honestly, critical to avoiding frostbite. In Stalingrad and Bastogne, diaries describe men doing squats, stamping feet or swinging arms in the dark simply to survive another hour in the cold. Stillness was deadly. Motion kept life in frozen limbs. It's worth remembering that the cold itself became a weapon during the Second World War. The Soviets knew the winter would weaken German forces ill-prepared for sub-zero fighting, just as the Finns leveraged freezing conditions against the Soviets during the Winter War. Survival tactics like these weren't luxuries, they were military necessities. Units that failed to adapt froze, while those who mastered warmth without fires endured and held their ground. These forgotten tricks weren't just about survival, they shaped campaigns and determined victories. World War II wasn't only fought with rifles and tanks, it was fought with wool, earth and sheer endurance against the elements. Soldiers deprived of fire developed a brutal set of tactics to survive the cold, layering scraps, digging into the ground, sharing body heat, improvising bedding and forcing movement to keep blood alive in frozen veins. These methods are more than historical curiosities, they are really lessons in resilience and adaptation. They remind us that survival often depends not on grand strategies, but on the smallest acts repeated night after night. For those passionate about history and survival, these forgotten techniques show just how resourceful ordinary soldiers had to be. If you want to uncover more of these hidden strategies from the Second World War, subscribe to In the Beginning, and share this documentary with others who value real survival history. Every detail preserved keeps alive the memory of those who endured not just the battles, but the merciless winters of war.